My name is Merve Hickok. I'm the president and policy director of Center for AI and Digital Policy, and I'm also the founder of AIethicist.org. At the center, our mission is to protect and advance AI policies in a way, shape AI policies in a way that protects human rights, human dignity, democratic values, and rule of law. All of those concepts under serious attack for one way or another right now. And we do this by talking, advising national governments and international organizations, as well as building capacity in different countries on who should be at the table to discuss these issues and help shape the conversations. So I want to we talked a lot about, over the last couple of days, we talked a lot about large language models, some of the earliest impacts of social media, how that changed over time. But I also want to make sure that we don't lose sight of another algorithmic system, predictive AI systems. I will still touch on generative AI systems, but I want to make sure that we don't lose sight of that. And I want to do that at both horizontal and vertical levels. So when I say we're all interconnected, that is not a revolutionary idea, right? Especially for this room, that is the starting point that is granted. But I want to explain this with the outcomes of algorithmic systems. So we use AI systems, sometimes we choose to use AI systems, such as social media, large language models, etc., for different purposes. And we've been discussing the issues, although our panel is called the Ethics Panel. I think all of the panels throughout this week actually talk about ethics and the implications. So we heard a lot different angles about this. But there are also AI systems that are used upon us, that are making decisions about us, that impact and sometimes undermine our human dignity, our fundamental rights, the way that we access resources and opportunities. And these AI systems are built on historical data, right? You collect historical data about engagements, posts, voting, whatever it is, consumption. And then you assume, or the developers assume, that past behavior is going to always predict future behavior. And if only we have enough data, that we can predict all of these social outcomes. And the second assumption is that mathematically we can quantify, we can reduce the complexity of humans into quantifiable data points. But we can't, right? Humans are complex, humans are diverse. Although these systems, predictive AI systems or generative AI systems even, are I would say static in a sense that they tie us to the past, right? You're not able to move beyond their boundaries. AI systems do not forget, they do not forgive, they do not tolerate. Whereas us humans, we change, we aspire, we dream, we grow, we learn, right? So there is this dilemma between us as humans and the systems that make decisions about us and the way that we practice our rights and access to resources. And these systems are used in very critical domains such as recruitments, who gets a job, who gets healthcare, who gets a credit. They are used by who gets education even. They are used by law enforcement authorities, police, immigration authorities, even courts, how much time you should spend. Are you guilty? Are you about to commit a crime before you even commit? So there are so many ways that these systems can undermine human rights and human dignity and even due process in the meantime. But I want to make sure that we remember that there are humans and there are organizations behind these systems. AI does not fall from the sky. It does not come out of the blue. Humans make decisions about the data that we use, about the models that we develop, where we develop these systems, and who should be responsible for the consequences, right? And this means that when there are adverse impacts from these AI systems, whether predictive AI systems or generative AI systems, that has an impact on not only the individual, but horizontally an individual's family, community, network of individuals around them, and ultimately the fabric of society. And let me explain how that can vertically get even worse in what we call cumulative disadvantage. It is a term used by Oscar Gandhi Jr. And I'll explain this with real examples of algorithms, right? Imagine that you have a serious health condition. You go to the hospital algorithm deprioritizes you despite your physical condition because it's using past or historical bias and structurally biased data. This has happened. It deprioritized Black patients despite their significant or serious conditions. And then the insurance, your condition gets worse because you're deprioritized, you don't have access or you have late access to health. Your insurance algorithm just says, okay, the condition is now worse. I'm going to deny coverage to you because at this point it's not beneficial to me, it's not profitable to me. So you start using your own savings, your money, whatever it is, and then you start paying from out of your pocket. And now we have, at least in the US and in some of the European countries and beyond, we have what we call algorithmic credit score, right? It is a score, algorithmic score, a statistical model that says how much of a financial risk you are and whether a loan should be given to you. So your credit score starts to decrease. As you're dealing with your paying from out of pocket and your condition gets worse, etc., you go to a bank to get more resources, access to more resources and a loan. Bank denies your loan because of your now low credit score. We said, okay, what are other ways that I can reduce expenses at least, and you decide to apply for a cheaper house, a cheaper rental place, right? Now, the tenant screening algorithm that has access to not only your credit score, your health, your social media posts, your communications, etc., denies your application to rent a house. And let's say, okay, at this point, I will work no matter what. I will work more. Let me find a job that might be helpful. Now, the companies pretty much across all around, across the board, are using algorithmic systems to make determinations about who gets hired. And now, let's say you're denied the you are denied a job, the different job, because of your health or your credit score. So you can see how this can, on a vertical level, on a single individual level, can also create significant cumulative disadvantages and multiply that by their networks, their families, their neighborhoods, etc. But despite that, we continue to push for more AI in everything, and I am really thankful to the previous panel because each one of them had a great segue, a great explanation, a more in-depth explanation of some of these concepts that I'm talking about. So right now there is this the narrative that was mentioned in the previous panel about an AI race, right? There is this ultimate goal of an advanced AI model, however we define it. Who gets there first is going to be the winner. And if we don't do it, someone else is going to be doing it. So put all the resources, money, data, etc., energy into the systems, into this race, so we can get there first. But race means winner takes all, right? It is a zero-sum game, where I would like to propose an alternative model, an alternative narrative called RACE. And I do realize that for English as a second language speakers, that might be confusing the way that I am as a non-native speaker of English, that pronunciation might be confusing. But I use RACE as a way to enhance, elevate, improve, raise the bar for everyone, right, for well-being and nourishing of everyone. And I want to take a second of what that different scenario looks like when you shift the narrative from race to race. Race means domination. You're trying to dominate the resources, access to possibilities, right? Instead of collaboration. Race might amplify and deepen digital divides, or even digital canyon, as a former UNESCO director mentioned. Instead of including people, you are going there at the expense of everyone else, creating a deeper haves or have-nots. Race means usually goes hand in hand, and the final objective is usually power, whoever gets more power, whereas our ultimate objective should be compassion and how do we improve human condition, human well-being, etc. Race usually enables mass surveillance and exploitation, whereas we can choose to enhance human dignity and work towards that goal, right, instead of undermining that. Race can create cumulative disadvantages, and usually for the same groups, instead of shared benefits and maybe some burdens for all of us. And then race, again, goes hand in hand with control and militarization. The more that you have these powerful companies and powerful governments working together in this race, you see more resources going into technologies of control and AI and algorithmic systems embedded into militarization, whereas we want more improved democratic values and we want to improve inclusion. So there are two ways to tackle this. One is a very reactive way, and the other one is a more proactive way. And the reactive way is when corporations and governments deploy an AI system, the real objectives behind those are not really clear, at least to the public, right? The decision makers have the objectives, but they're not clear to us. And there's usually a misaligned incentives and values between those deployed and those that are impacted, right? There's a misaligned incentive between public interests. So you usually see, whether it's the government or the companies that are deploying these, big companies that are deploying this, that it's more about power, profit, control, efficiency, getting more out of less resources. And what we do in a reactive way is put some governance structures around this, whether it's through legislation, regulation, voluntary mechanisms, etc., to kind of reduce the risks, demand that they mitigate the risks, and if they cannot mitigate risk and harms still happen, that we are clear about who's responsible, liable, or accountable. And we've done this in like the likes of pharmaceuticals, medicine, energy, food safety, transportation safety, etc. The other way is to have an open society where the communities decide on the need and the priority of if we should deploy algorithmic systems and how we should deploy algorithmic systems, and start with enhancing, like have this vision of public interest at heart, and creating the structures, the values, the incentives around that with an open society and open debate. And it starts with do no harm first, right? And then the second is imagining a future that these communities want to be in, and then backtracing that to what kind of resources, capacity building, policies, etc., that we should have in place to get to that future. And we see this, possibly see the examples in open source software and early days of internet, like how internet was visualized earlier. I want to leave us with 4 summary points from this presentation. And one is, it is not only generative AI systems that we should be thinking about. The predictive AI systems are just as important in terms of their impact on communities and our dignity. Second one is there are humans behind every decisions, and we should think about these in terms of human decisions, institutional decisions. The third is, this has been said multiple times about the inevitability. Nothing is inevitable, and we can change the trajectory of, that the technologies might still be used, but we can certainly change the trajectory of what we want those technologies to do. And then finally, it is about our collective action, the way that we collectively respond to change this trajectory that prioritize not only public interest, human dignity, but the way that we respect each other's humanity. Thank you all.